On. Hello. Okay. Can we round up people in the coffee room? Bring your biscuits and coffee if necessary. Come into the room. Let's get started. Is that it?
Wow.
The defenses began. Hybrid warfare, right here in this room. Okay, I need a signal from the organizers whether I can start or should I wait for a few more latecomers? Okay, we'll start. Too bad for the others. Okay, you're now sitting in on the 11 o'clock panel. My name is Brooks Tigner. I'm the EU NATO Affairs Correspondent for Jane's Defense Weekly in Brussels, where I've covered EU and defense policy for about 25 years on both sides of the town. So I'm very happy to be here, thanks to the GMF. I really appreciate your inviting me to moderate and to sit in on these panel debates today. Very, very interesting topic. And I'm not going to touch this microphone too much anymore. It's making very bad noise. Today we're going to diverge a little bit from the other formats. As you see, I'm standing here for the whole debate so I can see you better in the audience, and as well as our panelists. I'm going to give each panelist right off the bat about 5 minutes, one after the other, to give their interventions. I will ask them a question or two based on what I hear, and then I want to throw it open to you, the audience, for as much time as possible. Okay? So we're going to, you've seen in your program, we have 4 very good speakers for this topic. And this topic is called, I have a little bit of a difficulty with the name of this topic. It's called Maritime Security, Ensuring Safe Waters in the Azov and Black Seas. Safety is not the same thing as security. One is a subset of the other, so I would argue that this title should be Ensuring Secure Waters in the Azov and Black Seas, and I think that's what we should focus on. So today with us we have Rear Admiral Nancy Lacore, who's the head of the U.S. Sixth Fleet, Admiral Ihor Voronchenko, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the commander of the Ukrainian naval forces, of course, Dr. John Manza, who's with operations at NATO headquarters in Brussels, and Dr. Hanna Shelest, who's editor-in-chief with Ukraine Analytica. I propose that we start first with Admiral Voronchenko, wherever he is. He's over there. And he's going to speak in Ukrainian, so you need, if you don't have these headphones, go to the back and get some now, okay? And the rest will be in English, and I think we should get started. So, General Voronchenko, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Доброго дня всім. Я вибачаюсь. Генерал Годжес сказав дуже... А? Все, готово. Отже, я дуже вдячний генералу Годжесу за підтримку наших військово-морських сил. Я мав змогу вчора спілкуватися з ним на цю тему безпеки в Чорноморському регіоні. І він дуже слушну річ сказав, ключ України до НАТО лежить через англійську мову. На жаль, я мав рівень, але за 15 років його втратив, тому що не було практики. І зараз буду доводити до вас українською. Тому Чорноморський регіон вже на протязі 250 років це принцип домінування Росії і національні інтереси Росії ми бачимо незброєним оком. Починаючи з усіх форматів її, з Російської імперії, колишнього Радянського Союзу, і зараз практично теж імперія. Вона намагається створити цю імперію. Які поточні зміни відбулися протягом останнього часу, і які ж все ж таки наміри вони мають зараз, після того, що трапилось в Керченській протоці? За нашим аналізом я полягаю три основних таких цілі. Перша ціль – це легалізація територіального моря навколо Криму. Друге – це домінування і створення якомога такого міцнішого військового формування на території Автономної Республіки. Ну і по-третє, це вплив на країни Чорноморського регіону і намагання втручатися в їхні внутрішні справи. Щодо встановлення військового потенціалу, ми бачимо, як зростає міць Чорноморського флоту і того угрупування, яке дислокується в Криму. Насамперед, це носії крилатих ракет «Калібр». Зараз їх налічується, сумарний залп складає 86 одиниць корабельного складу. І до 2020 року, по нашим даним, вони будуть намагатися підвищити цей потенціал до 168 ракет в залпі. По-друге, це створення сильного угруповання в Азовському морі. Це 105 катерів кораблів, які виконують завдання якоби щодо захисту їхніх кордонів, якого немає. Ми порахували, такої категорії немає і такого поняття, як щільність корабля на акваторію. Отже, щільність корабля в Азові складає 1 на 350 квадратних кілометрів. В Каспії щільність корабля російського складає 4,5 тисячі. Бачите, яка різниця. Але ж не страшний чорт, як його малюють. Росія завжди використовувала брудні методи шантажу, блефу. Що ми маємо? Вони доповідають удачний пуск двох останніх, удачний пуск калібрів з залпа 2 одиниці, але ми знаємо точно, що був тільки одна ракета зійшла, і та в ціль не попала. Але все кажуть, що добре. Бачили міцність ВМФ Росії, коли через води Середземного моря і потім через Ла-Манш проходив адмірал Кузнєцов. І нещодавно, буквально місяця 4 тому, як волокли новий буян через Босфор і Дарданели. Намагання тиснути на країни Чорноморського регіону – це підтверджено. Це ракові опухолі. В Україні це Донбас і Крим, в Молдові це Придністров'я, в Грузії це Южна Осетія. І вони впливають на розвиток цих держав. І, на жаль, це сумний досвід цих країн боротьби з агресором. Які ж ми бачимо шляхи щодо стабілізації в Чорноморському регіоні? Ну, насамперед, я дуже вдячний командуванню 6-го флоту, дуже вдячний командуванню Об'єднаних сил НАТО в Європі, командуванню військово-морських сил Сполучених Штатів Америки за ту підтримку. Я мав змогу зустрітися із командувачем одним, другим і третім, де вони підтримали Україну, і ми бачимо реальні кроки. Це стосовно знаходження кораблів Альянсу і Сполучених Штатів, і других країн в Чорному морі. Також найближчим часом все ж таки, я думаю, це все буде реалізовано стосовно наших пропозицій щодо надання військово-технічної допомоги. Україна, на жаль, самотужки повинна будувати свій флот. У нас є спроможності для того, щоб запустити підприємства, які поки що в занепаді, і побудувати вітчизняні і корвети, вітчизняні ракетні катера. І це буде зроблено. Але потребує внесення змін щодо придбання високотехнологічної, високоточної зброї. По-друге, потребує досконалення нормативно-правової бази, як і всередині країни для розвитку видів Збройних сил, то, що казалося і вчора, стосовно надання повноважень і командувачів видів, і ресурсу, тим паче. І в плані міжнародних договорів. Договор Монтрьох, про що я маю на увазі, 1936 року, обмежує в тонажності, обмежує в днях знаходження кораблів в Чорному морі. Ну і це моя суб'єктивна точка зору. Ті санкції, які зараз працюють, і ті санкції, які введені Сполученими Штатами Америки проти 8 осіб, як приклад, які були причетні до інциденту в Керченській протоці, вони не дають бажаного результату. Що буде цьому віце-адміралу Медведєву, якщо заборонять в'їзд, допустимо, до Сполучених Штатів Америки? Санкції повинні бути більш жорсткіші, щоб сама Росія отримала почуття страху. Росія боїться тільки силу. І Росія тільки розмовляє з тим, хто сильніше. З тим, хто слабіше, вона не розмовляє. Вона каже на чорне біле, на біле чорне. Ну і збільшити, як я казав, потенціал інших країн Чорномор'я. Зараз військово-морські сили, що Болгарії, що Румунії, проводять відповідні заходи щодо збільшення свого корабельного складу. Туреччина має сильний флот, але Туреччина не зовсім поблажлива, як кажуть, відноситься до Росії. І ми бачили після інциденту з збиттям літака російського, отой накал, і після того зовсім інший розворот всіх відносин з Російською Федерацією. От, в принципі, коротенько, і я думаю, що у спілкуванні і при відповіді на питання я більш детально можу відповісти. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Admiral. A very good overview of the problem. Let's switch over to English and to our next speaker. Admiral, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to extend my personal thanks to the Foreign Ministry for Ukraine, as well as the German Marshall Fund and the Bamoris Foundation for hosting this event today, and specifically for inviting the U.S. to participate. We value our relationship with Ukraine, and I'm honored to be here again. I also want to extend my own personal commendation to the Ukraine Navy for the resolve and resiliency that they've demonstrated in the wake of the Kerch Strait incident. I hope that your captive sailors are being treated well, and I hope for their quick release. So if you notice, the military portion of these panels is quite small, so it's just the two of us over the series of panels that we've seen, which I think just emphasizes the fact that maritime security is a much broader concern than just us. We're just a portion of it. Effective maritime security encompasses economic, political, societal, environmental factors, and we are just one small piece of it. It really requires a whole of society or a comprehensive approach to ensure that we've got effective maritime security that allows ordinary citizens to go about their daily lives. We want to ensure that we've got a free flow of commerce that allows economic prosperity in this region and freedom of seas for all nations who operate in the Black Sea. But maritime security is not guaranteed, and I think we all realize that, especially in light of that Kerch Strait incident in the fall. Security and stability of the Black Sea region is becoming increasingly unbalanced by unilateral actions taken by Russia. And although strongly condemned by a united international community, the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the subsequent actions of Russia have resulted in an increasingly contested and militarized maritime security environment here in the Black Sea. Russia's action in the Kerch Strait, coupled with a subsequent increase in Russian naval activity, conflicting maritime claims, and changes in the balance of power at sea, have come to define the core elements of the Russian maritime agenda in the Black Sea region. And that agenda negatively impacts Ukraine, the broader community of the Black Sea, and has significant global ramifications for the security and economic prosperity of all nations. In 2014, former NATO Secretary General Rasmussen called Russia's actions in Ukraine, quote, the greatest threat to European security since the end of the Cold War. And 5 years later, the buildup continues and shows no sign of stopping. Russia's illegal actions in the Kerch Strait last fall were both a warning and a wake-up call to the international community and demonstrated a clear disregard for international sovereignty and unquestionable right of all nations. When states sponsor destabilizing activities and choose to disregard international maritime law, and global prosperity, stability, and security are all threatened. And I believe we're all feeling that. But in addition to their military buildup, we are also seeing an unprecedented use of hybrid warfare, new challenges to which we must all adapt and respond. The international community must stand united and focused on cooperation, a stark contrast to the unilateral and aggressive actions of Russia. The U.S. Navy is working both bilaterally and multilaterally in this area, and we maintain a routine presence in the Black Sea. We'll continue our regular participation in regional exercises, both large and small, that target improved interoperability, capability, and capacity with our Black Sea partners. Just a few days ago, or earlier this month, the Donald Cook exercised for the first time with 2 new Georgian cutters, excellent platforms that have significant capabilities. And then last week, the Cook exercised again with both the Bulgarian and the Turkish navies. The Cook, on the 26th of February, hosted the president, Voronchenko here, and members of his cabinet on board the ship as they pulled into Odessa. And at this meeting, U.S. and European diplomats highlighted the wide range of capabilities and international support for Ukraine's territorial sovereignty. The U.S. Navy also seeks to enhance the capabilities of our partner nations in this region by providing equipment, training, and support to enable Black Sea nations to patrol their neighborhood waters and to enhance regional stability. We support regional efforts at developing maritime awareness capability to enable the rapid detection of illegal activities. We'll continue our routine deployments into the Black Sea with ships and aircraft. Presence is important, and we recognize that, which is why we maintain about a 0.4 presence here, which means about 140 days last year, I think equivalent to what NATO had in the Black Sea. So pretty significant presence routinely in this area. And while we're here, not only are we providing presence and a show of strength, but it also gives us an opportunity to work and train with the regional navies while demonstrating our support for international law and international rules-based order. Ultimately, sustainable maritime security in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov is a group effort. Countering Russia's illegal actions and ensuring safe water in this region requires a coordinated and cooperative multinational effort, which I'm sure the next speaker will talk to as well. U.S. Naval Forces Europe will continue to do its part, but regional stability demands that all nations of the Black Sea region work together to improve the maritime security. Cooperation can come in many forms, ranging from participation in multilateral exercises to more tailored maritime security initiatives like those that emerged in 2001 and 2004. Multinational patrols send a strong signal of unity and strength in this area. The nations of the Black Sea have a unique opportunity to redefine their maritime security goals and to work together to achieve them. Doing so will enable regional stability and economic prosperity for the entire community. And although the challenges here are not new, they're significant and they demand a unified regional and international response. The annexation of Crimea created uncertainty over the demarcation of maritime borders in the Black Sea and has increased tensions among its littoral states. Yet these very states are the ones who need to act together to ensure maritime security for the Black Sea. In the words of Benjamin Franklin at the outset of the American Revolution, we must indeed hang together, or most assuredly, we will all hang separately. The key to successfully countering Russia's destabilizing activities and malign influence lies in our cooperative work with allies and partners to illuminate Russia's unacceptable behavior and to visibly demonstrate our collective will and commitment that no nation will stand alone.
Is this on? Okay, fine. Good. Another comprehensive overview. We'll come back with some questions to you on that as well. Let's move on to Dr. Manza.
Thank you. This has been a great learning experience for me so far, hearing especially from our Ukrainian partners over the last 2 days. But I would like to start the discussion from my perspective, looking at the influence that the conflict in Ukraine has had on NATO, and it's been a substantial influence, and this now directly reflects security in this region. You know, in 2014, NATO's conventional readiness, to put it nicely, would be called into question. Our ability to respond to a peer competitor like NATO. At the NATO summit in Wales in 2014, a summit that was supposed to be primarily about Afghanistan, the focus completely shifted after Crimea to a focus on developing NATO's conventional, in particular, ability to deter and defend against Russia. And at that time, we took some steps that were significant, necessary, but I would say not sufficient. NATO established the Very High Readiness Joint Task Force, essentially a brigade that's ready to move on 2 weeks' notice, and we put into place the Enhanced NATO Response Force, in effect the other 2 brigades of a division force ready to move in 30 days. Because of continued bad Russian behavior, both here and in other locations, at the Warsaw Summit, we continued to advance NATO's ability to deter and defend. And at the Warsaw Summit, we put forward presence into effect in the Baltic Sea region and in the Black Sea region through the work of folks like Ben Hodges in particular. We increased substantially the types of exercises that we've been doing in the East on these, what we call the frontline states. And we began to look seriously at reinforcement. But again, these steps were necessary but insufficient. At the latest summit, again, due to continued poor Russian behavior, both in this region and in other places, NATO took very substantial steps. And this was an effort led by the United States, in particular by then Secretary Mattis, to put into effect the Readiness Initiative that we commonly call the 430s. So at the last summit in July, NATO put into, or member states made a commitment to have 30 mechanized battalions, 30 naval combatants, and 30 kinetic squadrons with an ability to be employed on the battlefield within 30 days. And this is substantial. This is not ready to move in 30 days. This is ready to be employed in 30 days. Finally, in my mind, as a guy who's been very tough on allies about readiness, this is the sufficient step that provides NATO with a deterrence capability, not just along the eastern flank, but anywhere in the Euro-Atlantic zone where we can bring substantial forces to bear in the face of a direct threat. And again, not just by Russia, but by anybody in the Euro-Atlantic zone. And NATO, in addition to all these substantial actions that we've taken over the last few years, we're doing a lot in this region. In the Black Sea region, there are several dozen exercises that are planned for this year. As the Admiral said, we have a substantial naval presence, and this is increasing, and you will see this in the weeks and months ahead, more NATO naval presence in the region. But also, after the Sea of Azov, a renewed emphasis on what we're doing in particular in Bulgaria and Romania, and ensuring that allies are living up to their commitments that they've made there for air policing and exercising, and ensuring that we have filled the forces, the force requirements in those two countries in particular. And I got to say, Turkey, though, as General Hodges said, very busy on their southern flank, they are the anchor, in my mind, for virtually everything we're doing here in this region. They are a potent, not just naval force, but combined force that meets many of the resource requirements that we might have in any contingency in this region. So, you know, we've made massive progress, in my mind, as an alliance that normally, I would have to say, is a bit slow to move. The threat provided by Russia has continued to energize the alliance to make significant steps, necessary steps, to deter and defend. But my question, perhaps, that I would throw back out to the audience is, are we truly deterring Russia in this region, in the Black Sea in particular? And I'm frankly not sure that we are, because, you know, the concern is that this salami slicing approach that Putin has in this region continues to operate below the threshold of what allies might see as something that demands a robust response. So I would say that the Russians, Putin in particular, are very strategic, cagey about how they're carrying out their actions here, and they're always aware of what this red line is with NATO, and they don't cross that red line. But I'll stop there and leave that for others to discuss.
Very good last points you just made there, particularly on the 430s initiative, although the acid test there will be, of course, how quickly the 430s is rolled out. I'm not convinced that's going to happen very quickly, but we can discuss that later on. Let's move on to our final interventionist. You have the floor.
Thanks a lot. I will try probably to react a little bit and to raise the questions rather than to give the answers to some of them, because the Black Sea is definitely currently more the region of questions rather than ready decisions. And in your initial email, you asked us to give the answers, what should be done. And I realized for myself that most of the things that should be done in the Black Sea region, they should have been done back in 2014-15. That now, unfortunately, since November, we are more reacting to the situation that had been created for us, rather than taking the initiative. And here, referring to your phrase about safety is not the security, for sure, but I can't answer for myself, for example, do we really guarantee safety in the Black Sea as well, safety of navigation? And it seems to me that situation in the Kerch Strait, since April last year, with the delay of the ships entering, with the building of the Kerch Bridge and many other situations happening there, definitely demonstrate that currently the Black Sea countries can't fully guarantee even the safety of navigation in the Black Sea region, not speaking about the security. Doesn't matter in the comprehensive way of the security or just the military security. The next point that is coming to my mind, that the events of November 2018 was not only, from my opinion, the attempt to legitimize the territorial water around Crimea, but it was also the testing for the different regimes and the reaction of the international community for the possibilities of other incidents or actions conducted on the north, for example, or let's say around Alaska, because there are a lot of very specific arrangements about the shared seas where Russia can be involved. As well, we can go to the Japan, for example. It's really narrow places sometimes. It is very special agreements. Many of them have double interpretations. And in Crimea, many of the actions and reactions of the international community could be tested by the Russian Federation. And here we are coming to the Montreal Convention that many during these 2 days are recollecting. And it seems to me that we have too much wishful thinking about this convention. And let's be honest, we started discussion about necessity to revise it back in 2008. And we are now trying to forget the reaction of Turkey back in 2008 after, or during, better to say, the Russian-Georgia war. For Turkey, it is a very sensitive document. It is sensitive in all meanings. It's not about Russia. It is about Turkey, first of all. So it seems to me, while we don't have really colorful and nice relations between Turkey and European Union, Turkey and the United States currently, it is difficult to say that Turkey will be even ready to sit and to discuss how to change not only outdated articles about tonnage of the ships, but also all other restrictions and possibilities that Montreal Convention can give to the littoral states. So here we should be a little bit more critical about our own wishes and possibilities, especially when we talk about such old documents as the Montreal Convention. But at the same time, let's be honest that back in 2014, NATO was completely not ready to any kind of the incident in the Black Sea. Because Turkey took the leading role, and it was seen as a positive. We even didn't have the real Romania or Bulgaria role in the Black Sea at that time from the Navy perspective. They were more busy being the channel to the European Union, while Turkey were to NATO. So as a result, 2014, it was lack of information and knowledge about what can be done in the Black Sea. It was better knowledge of Afghanistan than of the immediate borders. And what is now, 2014, 2019, we are still talking as experts that we need a NATO strategy. Can it be the separate document or just the vision inside? But it should be clear understanding, both by NATO member states and by the partners, what is the vision of the region by NATO? Is it really understanding of what are the threats, challenges, and possibilities of NATO, not of the littoral states or member states, but of NATO as an organization? And here I don't want to overestimate Romania and Bulgaria, that was told at the previous session, because let's be honest again and critical. Black Sea Fleet Initiative of Romania, the latest one, what was reaction of Bulgaria? Quite a negative. So if honestly, if two NATO member states could not agree about their policies here, can we speak about any real, let's say, for them being a provider of any kind of the, not information, but the vision in Brussels? It should be more comprehensive and complex, probably, vision, because those initiatives that we had, Black Sea Harmony and Black Sea 4, definitely are dead initiatives as for now. We are not talking about them, so in case we are searching for the new multilateral initiatives, we should understand what even the littoral states think about them. And here I come to the next point, is definitely what can we do, or at least on the certain issues, what can we do? First of all, is definitely to make the Black Sea constantly present at the agenda, on the agenda of the international negotiations talking about the security as the region, not just as separately Ukraine or separately Kerch Strait or any other, but as a Black Sea. The second, to understand for ourselves, do we speak just about the Black Sea basin, or we are speaking about the Black Sea Mediterranean? Because a lot of policies, if we see how Russia, for example, making a build-up, military build-up in Crimea, For my opinion, it's not only for the Black Sea, it is definitely with a clear projection to a wider region. And it's not only Syria, but more complicated and a little bit wider. So that is important also for us, how we evaluate our options there. Then, even that I don't like the word hybrid warfare, it seems to me that we overuse it sometimes. But at the same time, if we go to the drills and trainings that we currently have in the Black Sea region, and there are a lot, why we don't include real hybrid threats? For example, if we go for the things like cyber component, or the component of not general information warfare, but small example, SMS sent to all sailors on the ship, with the provoking information about what is happening on the land, and at the same time with cutting of communications. That is a realistic scenario because we had this massive SMS being sent to Ukrainian soldiers in Donbass, so such operations were tested already. So why we are not testing these scenarios in the more problematic environment when you're on the ship, when you're with the less communication possibilities that you can have over there. And the last word to conclude with it, we can't evaluate resilience. We still don't have real indicators, even that NATO has certain set in your policies, but as a concept of resilience, what it is, we are still struggling with it. But it seems to me that when we are talking about the Black Sea and the maritime security, we are not paying enough attention yet to these word resilience and what really can be done under the resilience component within the maritime security in the Black Sea.
Thank you. Well, I gave you each 10 minutes because I think you all made some very good points there. So that still leaves us sufficient time for Q&A. I'm going to ask you each a quick question, and I'll start with you, Admiral Voronchenko. First of all, do you agree with Dr. Shelest's assessment that Russia is using Crimea to project power beyond the Black Sea? And secondly, a very concrete question, what are the most important new naval assets you think you need?
Безперечно, я згоден з Ганною. Росія Крим вже перетворила, як я вже казав, практично на непотопляємий авіаносець. З допомогою нових носіїв, це ракетів калібрів, вони можуть досягати уже до Великої Британії. Зараз постійно функціонує Сирійський експрес для забезпечення сирійського угруповання російських військ в Сирії. В даний час знаходиться БДК Азов на переході морем до Сирії. Він везе туди снаряди, він везе туди пальне, він везе туди смерть. І він везе туди оту експансію, яка зараз проводиться в Європі, з Сирії на Європу. І це ще гібридний метод впливу на Європу. На першій панелі я хотів задати питання. Як ви вважаєте, мають ли ознаки гібридної війни в Європі? Вони є. Ті країни, які полюбляють Росію, які ублажають Росії, там все тиш і блаж. А ті країни, які висловлюють свою позицію щодо неправомірних дій агресора, ми бачимо, що зараз во Франції твориться. Ми бачимо, що були заворушення в інших країнах і масове переселення в Сирії йде. Це гібридні виклики для Європи з боку Росії. І Крим це як трамплін своєобразний. Забезпечення Сирійського експресу проводить Чорноморський флот і проводить зафрактовані суда. Із баз Чорноморського флоту виходять на бойову службу в Середземне море кораблі.
What about my second question? What are the essential, the most important naval assets that you need?
Ну, як казав вже в своїй доповіді, безперечно, ми потребуємо високотехнологічної зброї, та, яка б відповідала б вимогам сьогодення і на крок була попереду російської зброї. Вона така зброя є. Вона зброя така є в партнерах. І ці питання всі ці були опрацьовані. І в цьому місяці я впевнений, що деякий прогрес піде. Україна зараз, її оборонний комплекс проводить випробування і крилатих ракет, проводить вже випробування і станцій нових радіолокаційних. І я впевнений, що ми доб'ємося успіху в розвитку військово-морських сил. Ми створили стратегію розвитку до 2035 року, там, де є 3 етапи і пріоритети. Основні фактори, які ми поклали в цю стратегію, це фактор часу і ресурсний фактор. Якомога менше вкласти, но по етапам досягти спроможностей в подальшому відбитті агресії з морського напрямку.
Thank you, Admiral. Moving on. Rear Admiral Lacore, you said earlier that NATO has stepped up radically its patrolling of the Black Sea, and along with the U.S. fleet as well, 120 days or so, I think, in the last year. That's a lot, but is that enough to act as deterrence? And perhaps even more importantly, a force is only effective from a deterrent point of view if there is the willingness to use it. So you find you've got ships there for 120 days out of the year. Would they be applied if there was an incident? You probably don't want to answer that question, but I think people in the audience would like to know. It's fine to have all those strong assets in the sea, air, and in the sea, but to what point? Thank you.
Well, yeah, I probably do not want to answer that question.
But I had to ask it.
But our ships, I mean, we always are prepared to do what's necessary, but it doesn't come down to always the tactical level commander in making those decisions. I know there's a lot going on, and we'd certainly be prepared at that level to respond, but I can't say that exactly what we do until we know exactly what's happening.
Okay, let me turn the question around. A question to you and Dr. Manza. Spring is coming. I imagine there's going to be quite beautiful weather and flowers around the Azov Sea. Might be a nice time to make a naval visit to Mariupol. Is that in the cards?
Well, for operational security reasons, we are not able to discuss where our ships are going and when they're going to be there.
Dr. Manza, what about NATO? Couldn't NATO pay a friendly naval visit inside the Azov Sea? You don't need Russia's permission for that, do you? Or tell us why, maybe turn the question around, why should NATO and U.S. not pay a visit inside the Azov Sea?
Well, as you know, maybe just bring up 2 points. One, NATO does everything on consensus. So any decision about what assets are in the Black Sea and the activities we carry out here are carried out by 29 allies currently. And if any one of those allies does not want to carry out or see NATO carry out that activity, it will not go on. And, you know, what this reflects, though, and it's been mentioned previously, is, you know, there are various interpretations of the threat of Russia amongst the alliance, obviously. And there are nations who press very hard for the alliance to do more in this region, and there are allies who are very reluctant to see NATO do more in this region. And trying to balance that, especially in a consensus based organization is quite difficult. So that's a long way of saying we do what allies tell us to do.
That comes back to her earlier point, though, about does NATO have a coherent strategy for the Black Sea? That would suggest it doesn't. But, you know, that's my job as a journalist to make critical comments. Dr. Shelest, what do you think the chances are of getting Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and the other players around there to work closely and in a coherent fashion with Ukraine and Georgia? Those three allies have very diverse economic, political, and military interests. I've watched Black Sea conferences for years in the previous 2 decades try and get them together. They couldn't even agree on a common economic plan for the Black Sea. Is there any hope that they're going to work together to confront this new threat in the Black Sea?
Yes and no. And it is not the Odessa reply, but it is reality because you reminded how it had been happening before. And definitely, unfortunately, we have very different, not only economic situation and that, but also different vision for the Black Sea region. For example, Bulgaria for many years perceived themselves more as the Balkan states rather than Black Sea states, and we had very low profile of the activities. It can be good cooperation with the neighboring states, but not projecting themselves as part of the Black Sea. And unfortunately, with the current development of the Bulgarian-Russian relations, which are not stable, if we can say it. I don't believe that we can see the greater role for Bulgaria as for the Black Sea policy now. Romania is definitely changing, and we see it since 2010 that Romania would like to have more initiatives here. However, as for me, it is always the question of the competition for the regional leadership and also competition for being the main channel of communication with Brussels, rather within the EU or within NATO. So here, unfortunately, we see that it is a certain point of the functional cooperation that is possible. We see it. We see currently more and more ability to formulate certain policies. But I don't envisage that we can see any new initiatives like Black Sea for a Black Sea harmony in the near future. And the reason definitely that some of the countries believe that without Russian Federation you can't speak about the regional initiatives, that none of them will work. It's not only that Russia has quite a significant shore, but also that they will not be effective. So in this case, why to invest in this? And better to invest in either bilateral cooperation that is increasing, or in cooperation under the NATO umbrella or under the European Union umbrella, so to have the greater support of the organizations and their capacities.
Okay, very good. Admiral, you wanted to come in?
Щодо військового аспекту в цьому напрямку, я скажу одне, що в вересні місяці у нас була зустріч в Неаполі, в штабі НАТО, командувач Чорноморського регіону, за винятком російського. Ми маємо дуже тісні і дружні стосунки, і ми вже деякі кроки цього плану почали виконувати. Двостороннє навчання з Румунією, і будемо також продовжувати спільні дії.
Thank you. One last question I'll pose, and then I want to throw it open to you there in the audience. Dr. Manza, NATO has its trust funds for Ukraine. I'm not sure if that falls within your remit or not, but if it does, perhaps you could tell us very briefly where this is going. Does it need to be expanded? Does it need more resources? Or is it moving along at a pace that's acceptable or not?
So I literally just inherited yesterday the capacity building responsibilities for Ukraine and for all of NATO's partners. So this conference is one of the first steps in developing the relationship and starting to devise our strategy. I will tell you that, my vision of this is that, the vision of NATO headquarters in this reorganization that we did, is that we are better off having one Assistant Secretary General, me, owning all of the tools in our toolbox to deal with partners than having them spread out over multiple organizations. So I'm anxious to work with the Admiral on naval requirements, but other officials from the Ukrainian Defense Forces as well. So trust funds are one piece of that, but there's a host of other things that we do, from building integrity to defense education and other training activities that we need to meld together in the most efficient fashion possible. But I would echo what General Hodges said. What I'm looking for is a good partner that is transparent, that uses our funding well, is very careful in their use of allied resources, and that is a true partner in developing capabilities. But, you know, do I have a plan right now for that? No, I don't, but I very shortly will.
Does that mean the trust funds, which were set up by NATO,
yes,
should those be administered in a different way, or expanded, or maybe even reduced in size in favor of something else? I mean, I've asked NATO about this idea of the trust funds for years, and it doesn't, I know it's quite good in certain areas, but in terms of providing equipment, it doesn't seem to be very satisfactory, but maybe I'm wrong there. Tell me.
Well, I mean, in the most general way, you know, NATO does not provide equipment. We provide expertise and training.
NATO manages the trust funds which are supplied by the individual NATO allies. We know that. But is enough equipment coming into the trust funds on behalf of Ukraine, do you think?
I am going to have, you know, a blank sheet of paper and look at all of this in the weeks ahead to devise how we can best employ the trust funds with the other tools that we have. But obviously, in the last 24 hours, I have not had a chance to do that. Okay,
so Ukraine should invite you back in a couple months and you can answer that question. Okay, good. We now have just about a half hour for the audience. Let's throw open the floor to those who wish to query our panelists. Yes, sir, there. Can we have a microphone over to the right side of the room? Please, a quick word, sir, before you say, hello? Before you speak, a quick word to everyone. Please introduce yourself, and please get to the point with your questions. No long introductions, okay? I want everyone to get to the point. We're all experts here. We all know the subject. So please, no opinion, ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding. I'm Alexander Titorchuk. I'm representing East European Security Research Initiative Foundation.
Please hold the microphone closer to your mouth.
Yes, thanks. And I have a question. Question concerning the kind of confidence and security building measures still executed, at least formally, in the Black Sea region. I just want to remind you about another document that was here, didn't mention here. This is a document on naval CSBM in Black Sea region. This document was agreed upon the Ukrainian initiative and Turkey in 2002, yes, and still in force here. And I just want to ask distinguished panelists, are there any plans to use somehow this document of the CSBM measures, maybe to control region of the Black Sea region, or to have access or some kind of monitoring situation around Kerch Strait or something like that? Thank you.
Okay, that's a question for either our NATO officials or for the Admiral. Yes. Who wants to pick up on that?
I'm not sure what he asked.
Yeah, I didn't fully understand the question. The question is, you know, are we looking at a monitoring mission in the Kerch Strait? I didn't understand the question.
Yeah. Within the confidence and building measures document. Probably it is the third, like Black Sea, when we usually speak about the cooperation, military cooperation in the Black Sea region, we're speaking about three initiatives: Black Sea 4, Black Sea Harmony, and confidence building measures, if I understood you correctly. But this document never really worked as we wanted. From the very beginning, there were problems with that document, and very seldom we even remember about it when we are talking about the military security and cooperation in the Black Sea region. So it seems to me that if it hasn't been effective in 2008, I mean, for being used, I can't believe that currently it is the time when we really can use its possibilities, because it's never been tested fully as how to implement those confidence-building measures.
Okay, one gentleman behind you, then I come to you. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Доброго дня. Петро Євдокимов, громадське формування. Безпека регіону складається з безпеки кожної людини і військовослужбовців в тому числі. Питання адміралу. Які будуть заходи прийняті ближчим часом для визволення ваших підлеглих? І питання для інших. Скажіть, будь ласка, як робиться в інших странах, якщо відбуваються такі події? Не може бути, що це перший раз. Дякую. Розуміло?
Да. Дуже дякую за запитання. Ну, насамперед, вже ви знаєте, скільки зроблено і на державному рівні, дипломатичному рівні, і те, що я казав, вже введені санкції проти тих посадовців, які приймали рішення на відкриття вогню проти наших кораблів. Мені дуже сумно, що зараз вони знаходяться там, тому що я 4 дні те ж саме був тільки в Севастополі, в заточенні, в камері одиночній. Знаю, що таке російська буцугарня, і який захід вони впливають, вплив, який йде зараз на них. Як ви знаєте, термін закінчується 25 квітня. За моїми даними, всі слідчі дії вже завершені, і вони будуть намагатися їх все ж таки осудити. Я не знаю, що в голові царя Росії. Все залежить від одної людини. Він нехтує всім цивілізованим. Він живе ще в 18 столітті за Катериною II, за поняттями. Треба нам робити все, щоб світ ширше відкрив очі на всі ці безлади, які творить Російська Федерація. Що в нього в голові, я не знаю, ніхто в цьому залі і взагалі в світі те ж саме не знає. Але держава, президент, ми всіляко робимо все для того, щоб якомога швидше вони були визволені.
I believe you had microphone.
Питання для усіх. Як в інших странах таки відбувається, якщо трапляються такі події? Військовослужбовці. Все ж буває в інших странах.
I'm afraid that's a question that only God can answer. That's just too broad. It seems to me you might be seeking some kind of military confrontation. There's nothing possible there, or a legal lawsuit, but I'm not sure that anyone can really answer that question.
Well, I mean, certainly when we engage with the Russians in the NATO-Russia Council, this is continuously brought up along with many other issues regarding Ukraine, and this has been added onto that list of bad Russian behavior.
But the Russians, it's a blank wall, isn't it, within the
we trying to use all the elements of power.
Right. Bruno, you had a question. Yes. Can we have the microphone up here at the front, please?
So thank you very much for your remarks. It's a little bit out-of-the-box thinking. But I do have a question for the Ukrainian admiral, actually. And I was wondering to which extent you are working together with your Georgian friends when it comes to maritime security in the Black Sea. So here's my logic. I come from a small country called Belgium, who has limited naval capabilities as well. So what we did, we started cooperating with the Dutch to an extent that Belgium and the Netherlands have really integrated their navies in a way that's, perhaps full scale, I would say, the full spectrum of our capabilities. We work together, we train together. So we've been talking a lot about how NATO can help you. But how about your other good friend, Georgia? How much do you do together in order to be more powerful towards the threat that you face?
Ну, як я вже сказав, була зустріч у нас в минулому році, в вересні місяці, і ми зустрічаємося на всіх симпозіумах, командувачах, як регіонального рівня, так і міжнародного рівня. Що стосується кожної країни, з Грузією у нас дуже дружні стосунки. У нас спільне навчання як на території України, так і на території Грузії. Щодо спільної готовності, то, як ви знаєте, у берегової оборони Грузії вже є два катера класу «Айленд». І ми такі те саме найближчим часом отримаємо. І продовжимо в цьому плані роботи. І є амбітний проєкт, але я зараз не можу про нього казати. Це військова точка зору. Що стосується з Румунією, те ж саме двостороннє навчання і міжнародне навчання. В минулому році ми започаткували річкові на Дунаї двостороннє. І те ж саме військово-технічний напрямок у нас розглядається. Зараз іде опрацювання і вже на останньому етапі щодо створення єдиної державної системи висвітлення надводної обстановки, яка буде трансформована в єдину мережу, і наш сегмент буде відповідати рівню Болгарії і Румунії. Ну, це вкратце.
Question? Yes, gentleman at the very back. Please identify yourself.
Периодически в прессе появляются сообщения о том, что разведывательная авиация США совершает облеты в Черного моря. Что они приносят и какая цель этих мероприятий, что получает от этого украинская сторона? Спасибо.
Спасибо. Пивут.
I'm afraid that's for you.
So anything that the United States is doing currently has been in the plans for quite a while, and we're just executing normal operations in the Black Sea.
Short and sweet answer. I've got one. I'd like to build on what we heard Minister Klimkin say yesterday, where he called for a sort of integrated network of either drones or satellites or whatever to detect, for example, ships in the Black Sea that have turned off their AIS, their automatic identification signal, and or other military activity in the region by Russia or whomever. A question to any of you. How feasible is this idea politically? And I wasn't sure whether he meant something only for Ukraine or a wider Black Sea friendly network. How feasible is that? And secondly, assuming you did put this kind of system in place, what would you do with the intelligence you gathered? Would you keep it secret for strategic analysis, or would you release it to the public in order precisely to shine a light on what Russia is doing?
I'll take that at first. So yeah, I think it's very feasible. And that's something that the United States is a big proponent of, and something you don't hear talked about, because it's not the tactical stuff that everyone's comfortable with, and the strategic stuff that's very sexy and political. It's right in the middle. It's the operational level of war. And that's something that we do very well, and we're trying to do here with the Maritime Domain Awareness. And then we'll, of course, have to, I think, assist in probably some of the training that's involved to operate a Maritime Operations Center. But
Maritime Operations Center for the region or just for Ukraine?
well, I think, well, we're assisting Ukraine with theirs, but I think the goal is that there will be, multiples that all talk. We can point to the Gulf of Guinea region of Africa as I think one of our successes, and all those countries, all those nations now have Maritime Operations Center that work together, and there is information sharing. Whether they're releasing the information to the public, I don't know, but they're sharing information amongst themselves, which helps them prosecute illegal actions in the Gulf of Guinea pretty rapidly.
But that's my point. Shouldn't there be, if you do put this together, shouldn't there also be a public aspect to it? I mean, after all, NATO did release the satellite photos, when Russia first moved into the Donbass. So if indeed there are these kind of violations at sea, wouldn't it be a good thing to use those assets to feed that to the press and to the NGOs and to the world to show this is what Russia is doing right now in real time?
Well, I think that's a decision that happens above this level. I think that's a political decision on whether or not we want to share that type of information.
Fair enough, but would it be a good idea? Would it be a good idea?
Yeah, I can react a bit. It seems to me that some of the publicity for this would be very useful, and we can compare it with the two other examples that are happening. First of all, how the situation changed when OEC started to publish how the Russian convoys are going not by the proper roads but outside roads, and what effect it had, for example, for support of the sanctions against the Russian Federation. So it can have the additional support of the notions and the argumentation for the illegal actions. So in this case, when you not just tell that it is violation, but when you demonstrate certain evidences that are understandable for the public, you can gain the support both of politicians and of the public. And the second is definitely what is happening with the ships coming to the Crimea, commercial vessels. There were a lot of violations, and Ukraine had been struggling for a long time how to make them being either arrested or any other sanctions against these ships. And in this case, it was mostly and predominantly done by the civil society organizations monitoring these ships. When we would have the additional support of this information, not only from certain, let's say, agents of the NGOs who can monitor it with the open sources, but also with some additional technical, first of all, capabilities, it can have the accumulative effect as well, again, for the punishing, because it seems to me that naming and blaming is becoming more and more important. We saw it with the Skripal case, how the naming and blaming had a real effect, but only when you can prove it with the data. Here it is the best way to prove the cases.
Okay, you should join the Navy. And get that idea circulating. Any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy. This is your chance. Yes.
Burçin Gönelli from Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Just wanted to make a comment first about Montreux Convention, because I heard a lot about it from General Hodges, other speakers. When I hear about scrapping or changing the Montreux Convention, I also can't but think that it's based on an implicit assumption, which is, if we remove Montreux, there will be an influx of deployers from outside the region. But looking at the facts, since 2014, the facts tell otherwise, including for the US. The number of ships entering the Black Sea since 2014 has consistently dropped from outside. So, and on top of this, when non-literals ask for permission within the letter and the spirit of the, or the letter basically of the Montreux Convention, none of them have been denied. Therefore, this calls into question the validity of arguments against Montreux Convention in the first place. The second thing is the Article 19. Article 19 requires a state of war. Are we in a state of war? This is a very important question. Mm-hmm. And this has connotations with hybrid warfare. I'm not the one to answer my own question, but I just throw it here. The other thing, and the last question, last thought I'd like to throw out is, we are here in defense of a rules-based order. Should we be the ones who scrap that rules-based order in order to achieve our strategic objectives? One example is again Montreux. From my perspective, no. We should continue to defend the rules-based order while upholding international law. This is what we should do. This is my question. And the question I really want to pose is, I also sensed that there's a discontent about the deterrence and defense posture of NATO, in particular in the Black Sea. What is lacking? What should be done more? Thank you.
Okay, those are two big questions. Are we in a state of war in order to prevent ships, Russian ships moving through the Bosporus? I don't think so, but I'd like someone to comment on that. And secondly, the other question, again, this has come up a second time. Does NATO really have a coherent strategy for the Black Sea? If it doesn't, what needs doing?
Well, I'll jump on the second question. When it comes to allies and what we do in the Black Sea, I think it's very clear what our strategy is. And that's not very surprising. We prepare absolutely for the defense of alliance territory, all allies, and we've taken, as I said earlier, several major steps to increase our capabilities to defend alliance territory. Perhaps the good news for Ukraine and Georgia is that those efforts to defend alliance territory also spill over to Black Sea security as well. What should we do more? I'm anxious, again, to work with colleagues in both Ukraine and Georgia to maximize our ability to strengthen their security institutions and capabilities all the way down from strategic to the tactical levels. So we need to focus our efforts there to make sure that they are as resilient as possible in the face of any Russian aggression.
Well, that seems close to a strategy, but I think when folks pose this question, what is the Black Sea strategy of NATO, they're thinking perhaps beyond, unfairly from your point of view, they're thinking beyond just the strict territory of the Allies. So if you say, okay, there's a spillover effect, is that enough as a strategy for the region as a whole? I mean, they're not allies, I agree, but this is what the other countries want to hear from NATO. To what extent would that spillover effect, if there is one, really extend to Georgia? Would it?
But this is the question that you've brought up. I mean, I can't predict what allies would do or not do in the face of further aggression by Russia in this region. It's absolutely clear what allies will do in defense of alliance territory, but as soon as you leave that territory, you're in a gray zone of political decision-making, and it's impossible for me to predict what the Council would decide at a time of crisis.
Do you have any comment on that?
No, the only comment is about the Montreal Convention, that nobody is doubting that we need this convention. The question is that it is outdated, that probably we need revision, both from the certain technical elements, because definitely in 1936, the capabilities of navies and even of the commercial ships were completely different, so we can't evaluate the current ships by their capabilities back in 1936. And the second is definitely to consider the new waves of the warfare happening, because less and less wars are announced, and that is to your question, are we in the state of war or not? We are not announcing the war as we used to. Yeah? It is sometimes even not the clear date when the war starts. And the problem is what to do if the international community accepts it as an act of aggression, but the aggressor doesn't. Are we in the state of war or not? And in this case, we can start doubting all conventions, not only Montreal Convention, but the Geneva Convention as well. Because in the Geneva Convention, everything is stating about the countries in war, predominantly with some nuances. In this case, are we in the spirit of law, or are we in each of the latter? Because if we evaluate the current, especially Montreal Convention, only by the letters, we are not only restricting ourselves, but we are starting to manipulate by those positive elements that were included in this convention when it was signed.
Admiral Voronchenko, you want to come in?
Ви праві. Все полягає в папірці. Но 14-й рік. Завтра буде 5-та річниця, коли зник кримський татарин Ахметов з Майдана Леніна в Сімферополі, і потім його тіло знайшли в Білогорську. До речі, чи у вас це родичі, кримські татари? І ви кажете, що війни немає. Я бачив цих зелених чоловічків, коли мене блокували всі мої військові частини в Криму. У 2003 році я був учасником конфлікту довкола острова Тузла. Ну а в 2014 році, при виконанні завдання в Луганській області, мене накривали градами, реактивними системами залпового вогню з території Росії. Війна немає на папері, а війна реальна є. Це права Туреччини. Я згоден. Стаття 19. Ну куди вони далі підуть? За Дарданели. Це такий знак питання з нет-крапкою.
We're coming gradually to the end of our session. Before I ask my questions, anyone in the audience? Yes, please. I urge again, please identify yourself before you ask your question. Please don't forget to do that.
Sure, Volodymyr Dubovik from Odessa Meshnikov University. One question for John Manza. I think it's very interesting what you talked about, the consensus building. That's a difficult thing to do. I mean, obviously you're in charge of operations, not of policy planning or something. But why do you think it feels at least, maybe I'm wrong, that there was easier to build a consensus around what Alliance is doing in the Baltic region comparing to what is being done in the Black Sea region here? Or what is, if you look at this analogy or parallel or something, make a comparative analysis, it seems like more or less most member nations in the Alliance agree about what needs to be done there, but not here somehow. What's the difference there? Yeah, and for Hanna Shelest, thank you so much. In the light of a discussion on the Montreux Convention, which I also agree with you, it's archaic, it's outdated, it definitely belongs to the entirely different era in the history of international relations, but okay, I mean, do you feel that we can find, and others, the Ukrainians and others, the arguments convincing enough or compelling enough for our Turkish friends to ever go into that territory of maybe revisiting, modernizing, modifying some of the conditions, some of the points in that convention? Thank you.
Oh, those are two very peppery questions. First one is especially good. Again, that brings us back to Black Sea. So indeed, who would like to answer that? Why does NATO seem to have moved more quickly and more cogently in the Baltic region than in the Black Sea region?
Well, I think it was, well, first of all, going back to, as I described before, Wales to Warsaw to the Brussels summit, there was not consensus after Wales for what to do in the Black Sea. There were folks pushing for it, like Ben Hodges and others, but it was continued Russian bad behavior that led to consensus. And not to sound in any way flippant about it, it was easier in the Baltic Sea because there's a lineup of NATO allies there, and that makes a significant difference. Also, the two partners in the Black Sea, Finland and Sweden, have really also felt the threat from Russia, so they jumped right in to join in. So, you know, and you saw that on Trident Juncture last fall. 50,000 NATO troops and Finland and Sweden offering up their territory. So it is. It's more black and white in the Baltic than it is in the Black Sea, and you know it's complicated here by the fact that we're looking at a threat from Russia, and I'm totally with the Admiral here, at war with Ukraine, but not a member state, and with Georgia as well, their actions there. But clearly shows the difference between that line of allies and partners. And I know that's probably a horrible realpolitik thing to say to our Ukrainian friends, but that line is absolutely critical for the alliance. We don't really talk about very much what we would do beyond that line because we don't ever want to show that the line is in question. That if a single Russian soldier steps into alliance territory, we know exactly what we will do, and we have plans to expel them if they were to do that. But it is different when you're talking about partners.
Let me build on that, though. The Baltic versus Black Sea area denial. NATO has to be looking at this in both regions. Is the scale substantially different for area denial, building up area denial, access denial for those two regions, or is it because the Baltics is much smaller, it's easier to do, and they're missing some assets there too. Let's be honest.
It's a difficult problem in both areas, and I think, as the Admiral very nicely said, Crimea is an unsinkable aircraft carrier that can house all these capabilities.
But Kaliningrad is there too, huh?
No, absolutely. So I think the two compare very, very well. And when you look, down the eastern flank of the alliance, from Kaliningrad to Crimea and now to Syria, you see these overlapping bands of access denial that
on Russia's side, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. that are something the alliance needs to practice and be prepared to defeat.
What about the use of the Allied ground surveillance in the future? Should they be flying semi-permanently over the Black Sea? That's an operational question. Over the Black Sea region? Is that in the planning? You probably won't say, but I'll ask it anyway.
We have a host of reconnaissance assets that we can employ anywhere that allies decide.
Aside from the AGS, you mean?
AGS, amongst others, that's right.
Okay, fair enough. Yes? You mean the other question on the convention? Yeah.
Very quickly, in the beginning I said that we should be critical in our wishes and be sensitive to the position of Turkey. So I started my criticism of Montreal Convention with this phrase, because definitely both 2008, or better to say, first of all, 2008 demonstrated clearly how sensitive and how Turkey preferred to be very passionate about the letter of the document rather than spirit, when the US vessel with a bigger tonnage and humanitarian aid on board was not allowed to enter, but was made to divide these humanitarian aid into two vessels, and only later they entered the Black Sea. So, considering the current political situation and relations of Turkey with other partners involved, it's not Ukraine or Georgia. Unfortunately, we need a greater consensus, at least of those who signed Montreal Convention, because definitely it should be position of United Kingdom, of France, of the Black Sea countries who are after the Soviet Union, of former Yugoslavia, and here it is the question of all former Yugoslav or just of Belgrade Agreement, of Japan. Let's not forget that Japan was among those who signed. So that is much more complicated issue, it seems to me, and only if we would have the joint position of other signature countries, probably it can be then initiated negotiations with Turkey. But to push Turkey to think about it, it is important, because it should be their agreement that nobody is attacking their rights and privileges under this Montreal Convention, but it is just a time to think further and how Navy and navigation and everything will be developed and how we can improve it.
I think that's going to be a very, very tough issue to tackle, because as Dr. Manza said earlier, Russia is very, very good, or maybe it was General Hodges, Russia is very good at slicing and dicing just below the radar, and they're not going to do anything that would directly provoke a reaction on that level, I don't think. We're coming up on 12:30 very rapidly. This is your last chance to ask a question. Otherwise, I'm bringing the auction hammer down and closing this session. Okay? I want to thank all four of our speakers. Very, very good question and answer. Go find these people during lunch and press them on the issues you want to know. We're now breaking for lunch, 1 hour. We'll see you all back here at what, 1:30, is it? Yeah, at 1:30 for the next session. Thank you very much.